Hello and good morning. Happy Friday on this chilly December for many of us across the country. I know a lot of people are getting some weather. Welcome to the Village webinar, Creating Powerful Connections and Building Meaningful Relationships. I'm Stephanie Barton, Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communications for FCCS. And I'm joined by my colleague and co-host today, Jean Canty-Siegel. She's the Executive Vice President and Chief Learning Officer for FCCS. And we are so excited to host today's webinar, where we're going to explore practical ways to build trust, to deepen relationships, and to turn networking moments into meaningful connections. You'll hear from our guest keynote speaker, Tracy Hooper. You'll hear from some members of the Village Council, and we'll reflect today together on how relationships shape both professional and personal success. So again, thank you for being here with us today. I'd like to start by recognizing our 2026 Village Council members. Stacy, you could, perfect. So in the Ag First District, we have Jenny Kreischer, Director of Strategic Communications for Horizon Farm Credit, and she's going to be part of our interview today. Rebecca Wood is the Senior Vice President and Director of Business Solutions at Ag South. We'll also be hearing from her. In the Farm Credit Bank of Texas District, we have Jolene Curtis, who's our COO at Texas Farm Credit. Shelby Schuster is a learning specialist at Capital Farm Credit. And Jennifer Thompson, who's also part of our Village Council interview today, she's the Chief Administrative Officer at Capital Farm Credit. In the Agribank District, we have Kate Lambert, who's the SVP of Marketing for FCS Financial. With the Farm Credit Council, we have Jenny Messero, who's the SVP of Government Affairs for the Council. In the CoBank District, we have Rachel Angris, General Counsel, Head of the Legal Department at American Ag Credit. LaTanya Keaton, who's a Regional Vice President at CoBank. And with FCCS is Jean and myself. So that is who will be part of the Village Council for 2026. They helped plan this webinar. They're helping to plan the summit that we hope you all participate in June. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. As we're moving right along here, has LaTanya joined us?
Have.
Perfect. Can you help us step into this conversation in this webinar fully present with a bit of a mindful minute?
Absolutely. Good morning to those in the Mountain and Pacific time zones. Good afternoon to those who are in the Eastern and Central time zones. We're going to take 2 to 3 minutes this time together to get ourselves prepared to come into the space that we are. I ask your indulgence in a couple of ways. One, I'm in a little busy time, so you might hear a few chimes and a few dings. So please don't let that distract you. The second thing I'll ask is if you would be so kind as to close your eyes and to take a couple of deep cleansing breaths with me, and let me walk you through a couple of minutes of getting prepared to do the work that we're going to do here today. If you would close your eyes, take some slow, steady breaths, and inhale and exhale. Allow your body to settle into what we are gathered to experience, which is connection and trust and preparation for meaningful relationships. I want you to feel your feet on the ground. I want your shoulders to drop. I want your mind to slow down. I want you to focus in on our shared time together. I want you to start with some reflection time on you. I want you to ask yourself, what do you hope to give today? Care, commitment, encouragement, support. What do you hope to receive today? Knowledge, ideas, some information, resources. Think about what you want, both to give and to receive from this hour. Imagine opening your mind, your heart, your arms, making room for some curiosity, some empathy, encouraging yourself and others. Trust is built on openness and self-awareness. So be prepared to trust yourself and others on this call today to do the work that we need to do in the next 59 minutes. Let's move forward in the next minute. Take another deep breath. Feel your body filling with energy. I hope you're starting to feel steady and grounded and then opening up and ready for us to build that trust, to deepen our relationships, and to get ready to network and to build some meaningful connections today. Let me know if you're feeling that way. Let me know that you are ready and prepared to come into this space, to hear from our talented speaker, to talk with each other today, to walk out of this room accountable to each other, to make meaning out of what we do, and to take what we learned today into 2026. Be thinking about if I've committed to what I want to do, if I've committed to give today, if I've committed to receive today, if I've committed to be energetic, to care, to want, to receive, and to build those connections and to network with intentionality, what is that going to look like, not only in this room, but when I leave this room? And with that, keep that relaxed spirit, keep your body relaxed, take a last cleansing breath, and open your eyes. I hope you feel ready to do the work today and to embark on this learning journey together. Thank you.
I was all in on the moment, so I had myself on mute. Apologize for that. But thank you so much, Latanya, for getting us really centered. And I think it's not just important for today, but we're entering a time of year that is really hectic. It's sometimes an extra load is on all of us as, women in our family or mothers or daughters, and a lot of people are getting ready to host. And so it's about to be a really busy time for people. So just getting centered and thinking about being mindful and present. So thank you for helping us get prepared for today's conversation. Well, next up, let's move right into the next part of today's webinar. I'm thrilled to welcome Tracy Hooper. She is the founder of the Confidence Project and a respected voice in communication, presence, and connection. She's known for helping leaders show up with confidence, not by being perfect, but by being intentional. And her work focuses on the meaningful skills that make a really big impact. The words we choose, the way we enter a room, the follow-up that deepens our relationships, the conversations that build trust. She spent her career helping professionals turn everyday interactions into opportunities for connection and for influence. And today she's going to be sharing practical insights on confident conversations, networking with purpose, and building relationships that last. Welcome to the webinar, Tracy.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's delightful to be here. Shall we start with a story
Yes.
about conversations? In October, my husband Henry and I were invited to a large community recognition event. There were 500 people at this event, and it was a reception. And then there was a smaller cocktail party to recognize a couple who we know well, who've been very influential and important to the community, followed by a dinner for them. And over the course of the evening, I met or reconnected with 9 or 10 people, including a woman who I bumped into coming out of the ladies' room, and she said, "I know you." And I said, "I know you," but we couldn't figure out how we knew each other. But I have to say, all night long, I was interested and curious and asking people about themselves with questions like, "So what brings you here?" Or, "Do you work for one of the companies who's being acknowledged tonight?" Or, "How do you know the couple that we're talking about? What do you admire or respect about them? Tell me about your family," and so forth. And 5 hours later, after the reception, the cocktail party, and the dinner, Henry and I got in the car to come home, and I said, "I'm exhausted." Not because the night was so long, but because not one person asked me anything about me. And I gave them opportunities. I talked slightly about the Confidence Project, a little bit about our girls who live out of town, but nobody picked it up. And it wasn't that they were unkind, they just weren't curious. Fast forward to last weekend. Our 3 adult daughters came in and our son-in-law from out of town for Thanksgiving. And one night Kathleen had a friend come over. So we had 6 millennials in the kitchen, plus Henry and me. And in 90 minutes, we had the most remarkable conversation. And yes, I wrote down our topics. We talked about investment strategies, cryptocurrency, the S&P 500, fashion for women and for men, heartbreak, gut health, New York Times bestseller called Iron John, and how to learn how to do anything from YouTube University. It was so much fun. People were talking and asking questions, and people were listening. And it was striking to me as I went to bed that night when I was brushing my teeth. I thought, why were those conversations in October so draining? And the conversation that evening at Thanksgiving was so energizing. And here's the reason. Good conversation is mutual. It's a partnership. It's a dance. You know, when we all know we come alive when people ask us questions or want to know about our story, or we get to swap stories with people. And that's when we have communication and connection, and that's the beginning of trust. And what I know for sure is that no matter what your personality, introvert, extrovert, shy, quiet, reserved, or somewhere in between, everyone can learn to be a confident conversationalist. And confidence is a verb, it takes practice. We have to practice these skills. So over the next 20 minutes or so, I'll share some practical tools for confident conversation skills. And I promise you that they will be a part of your competitive advantage. So let's jump right in. I'm going to share my screen. Give me a thumbs up if you can see this interesting statistic. Can you see that? Great. Here's what I want you to know. Dr. David Deming, who's an economist at Harvard University, has found that since the year 2000, the professions that have shown the most consistent wage growth are the ones that combine both cognitive and social skills. So it's not enough to be smart or to share all the facts and figures. Those are not skills that help us to connect with each other. But these skills that I'll be talking about today are the skills that you can use anywhere. So you won't do this the next time you're at a networking event, or be tempted to wear one of these. It keeps me from looking at my phone every 2 seconds. At an early confidence project training, one of the participants said, sometimes I don't know when I should jump into a conversation, or if I'm in a conversation, I don't want to interrupt people. So often I don't say anything, and then I feel invisible. Invisible. I want you to know, remember this truism, that you do not need to worry about any conversation if you remember that everybody's favorite subject is themselves. People love to talk about themselves in general and practice the golden rule, which is to treat everyone as if they are the most important person in the room. Because in that moment, when you're having the conversation, they are. And the best way to make people feel as if they're the most important person in the room is to look them in the eye. That sounds fundamental. It's hard for some people. And if it's tricky for you to look someone in the eye, look at the bridge of their nose. It's a great fake. It's in the same category. And of course, silence your phone. And if you feel like you're going to have a heart attack, if you have to turn your phone off, I want you to remember every one of you here on this call has your own personal assistant. Did you know that? Ta-da! We can turn off our phones. I want you to think about all the practice labs that you can have in your world where you can practice starter conversations with people. For instance, at an athletic event, you don't know somebody, turn to the person next to you and start a conversation. To your Lyft driver. When you're hiking, speak with somebody on the trail. These are likely people you will never see again. It could be at a celebration. It could be waiting in the security line in any airport and all over the world. Start a conversation. with someone at the farmer's market, at a wedding reception. You likely know the bride or the groom, but there are lots of people you don't, and you can practice. You can have practice labs. I love this. We do not have Wi-Fi. Talk to each other. Pretend it's 1995. That is from a billboard in a coffee shop in the Midwest. Today, I'm going to talk about 3 techniques to get a conversation started from my book, The Now Hello, and some follow-up techniques as well. The first one is give a compliment. Everybody loves a compliment. My gorgeous friend, Miriam Thornburg, who lived almost until she was 90, said this: if you can't think of something to say to someone, tell them, I like your shoes. My friend Stanley Fertig, though, had a brilliant career at Time Warner, including 15 years at HBO. And he said, yes, I give compliments, but I never compliment people on what they look like or what they're wearing. Cool sweater, nice glasses. You look great. Have you been working out? No, Stanley would never do that. Instead, he would compliment them on an accomplishment, someone that had something that they had put in effort, that they got a promotion, that they landed a job. Congratulations on finishing the marathon, or having a baby, or finishing Q3 strong. Or he would compliment them on a trait. I admire how generous you are, or strategic, or open-minded, or such a strong leader. So here's a question for you. Think of your favorite colleague or someone in the world who you would love to meet. If you had a chance to meet that person, what trait would you tell them that you admire about them? That is a genuine compliment. Number 2, be curious. CEOs are telling us they're looking for people with a high CQ, a high curiosity quotient, and there are all kinds of ways that we can develop that muscle. Now, call me shallow. Anytime I go on a long trip at the airport, I get myself a copy of People magazine. I know it's not that great, but I love it. I can't help it. And a year ago, I picked up this copy of People magazine because my beloved mentor, who I never met, Phil Donahue, had passed away. Listen to what he says. Just months before his death, Donahue reflected on talk shows and, quote, the one thing that laid at the foundation of the 7,000 episodes I taped, and that is curiosity. I still believe that despite our differences, we're all a part of this sprawling global network, family, and we just need to get to know each other so we can share the world together. How can you become more curious? Devour books, magazines, newspapers. Go to live events whenever you can, seminars, TEDx talks, lectures, concerts. Take advantage of LinkedIn learning courses and webinars like The Village. Listen to podcasts and good radio and music and Audible. My new favorite book, I'm about halfway through, is called The Correspondent. Have you read it, anyone? It's by Virginia Evans. It's fabulous. It's an audiobook for me. I can't read everything, but I walk and I can listen. And then pay attention to that body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, even pay attention to people's breathing. Some people call this intuitive soft skills. I call them intuitive success skills. These are the skills that will help you be a category of 1. Number 3, the magic words. Ask the magic words to begin a Kickstarter question. And here they are. You ready? What? How? And tell me more. Those are really the only questions we need to ask people, especially in an early conversation. We get the Wall Street Journal, and I love it because 4 times a year there's the fashion issue. This is the spring fashion issue, the women's fashion, and it has a big article in here about Tory Burch. You know Tory Burch, the icon in the sportswear industry. There are 13 questions on this page. 10 of them are what or how questions. For instance, what time do you get up on Mondays, and what's the first thing you do? How do you decide what to wear in the morning, and what do you wear when you want to feel powerful? Several articles this year said Tory Burch is cool now. How does it feel to hear that? How do you think about the future of retail? What is your most prized possession? And finally, what's a piece of advice you've gotten that's guided you? And her answer, negativity is noise. My parents told me this, and it's been good for me. I'm a perennial optimist. I just can't be around negativity. What, how, and tell me more. And here's a bonus. Listening, in my view, is the unsung hero of confidence. I am modeled much of my TV news career after Barbara Walters, who was a fantastic interviewer. And here's what she said. It's not the first question that counts, it's the second, because that shows that you're listening. And Larry King, who we all know from 50 years on the air and 50,000 interviews, you all, he said this about listening. I never learned anything while I was talking. Now, here we are, we're in a networking event, and someone comes rushing up to you and they're saying, "Hi, how are you?" And you can't remember their name, and you're terrified and you think, maybe I'll run away and then she won't see me see her. This is what I want you to do. Preempt the awkward. You go right up to that person with your hand extended and you say, "Hi, Tracy Hooper." And they'll say, "Oh, Tracy, Sally Smith. Great to see you." Typically, when you introduce yourself first, people will reflexively use their own name. But if they don't, you can say, "You look so familiar to me. Help me with your name. I remember you from that meeting in Anaheim. Remind me of your name, please." Or, "Thank you for remembering my name. Remind me of yours." Now, has this ever happened to you? Someone says, "Remind me of yours," or you say, "Remind me of yours," and they say, "We've met 5 times before." And you think, "Oh my gosh, I know we have." Say this instead of panicking. "Oh my gosh, you're right. Out of context. It's great seeing you again. What do you think of the conference? How do you like the speaker? What are your plans for the holidays? What, how, and tell me more." Don't dwell. Don't make a meal out of it. Simply move straight through. "You're right. Out of context. Great seeing you. What do you think of the conference?" Now, what if you can't pronounce someone's name? The world, everyone in the world lives everywhere in the world. I was giving a presentation for a wealth management company, and many advisors were there. And this guy came up to me. He's given me permission to tell this story. And he said, "My name is Alex Canalopoulos, and nobody can ever pronounce my name. So most of the time I say, 'Hey, I'm Alex.'" I said, "Well, number one, stop saying hey. Hey is for horses. Say hello, good morning, good afternoon, and use your first and last name. I believe our name is a part of our personal and professional identity." But I had to think of a mnemonic device. Couldn't think in the moment. Woke up the next morning and thought, "Oh my gosh, Cantalopoulos, like cantaloupe. Alex Cantalopoulos." So I sent him a message on LinkedIn and I said, "If you want to have a tip for how you can introduce yourself to your clients tonight, call me." So we talked. I told him, say, "My name is Alex. And by the way, put a pause between your first and last name. You know your name well, but other people don't. So give them a chance to get used to it. My name is Alex Cantalopoulos." Well, he tried it and he said, "Tracy, it was fabulous. And I'm 37 years old and I've never been able to do it before." So that was a win. Or you could say, "Help me with your name again, please." Or, "I want to make sure I'm saying your name correctly. Would you say it again for me? Say your name for me one more time, please. I want to get it right." Or, "I think I have the pronunciation down. Did I get it?" People care that you care about their name. Now, breaking and entering. This is not a crime, everyone. There are 2 kinds of breaking and entering into conversations. One is, "May I join you?" And the other one is, "Come join us." Talk about a practice lab. By this, I mean, think of some people you can practice these skills with before you get into a real life situation, if this is tricky for you. "May I join you?" It's as simple as going up to a group and saying, "May I join you? I heard you talking about your plans for the holidays. I heard you talking about Jenny's promotion. May I join you?" That's all you need to say. You don't need to say, "Am I bothering you? Am I interrupting you? Is this a bad time?" If it's a public setting, it's typically comfortable for people to introduce themselves. Now, there's a caveat. What if you don't know whether you should enter a conversation or not? Here is the tip of the day. Toe to toe means no. If 2 people are toe to toe and their eyes are engaged and they're not looking around, that's the classic nonverbal cue that they do not want to be interrupted. But if somebody's foot is turned out to the side and they're gesturing slightly, that's perfectly fine for you to go up and say, "May I join you?" Now let's talk about the other kind of practice lab for "come join us." That would be if you're in a conversation and you notice somebody on the outside who wants to be a part of the conversation, but you're nervous because you can't remember their name. And so what do? We leave them out because we don't know how to bring them in. And we all know what it feels like to be left out. It takes us right back to the 4th grade when we were not invited to that birthday party, or to go on that camping trip, or to be on that softball team. Be the person who welcomes someone in. It goes something like this. Oh, come join us. We were just talking about Stephanie's vacation. Come join us. We were just talking about. Now that person is immediately part of the conversation. And then you say, do you all know each other? And then people will say, no, I'm Jenny Kreischer. I'm Jean Siegel. People will introduce themselves. Now, let's say you know Tara's name, but you can't remember everybody in the group. You've just met some people. You don't know everybody well. This is what you do. You say, oh, Tara, come join us. We're just talking about Stephanie's vacation. You know what? I'll let you all introduce yourselves. I'll let you all introduce yourselves. It's as if you're doing them a favor by letting themselves introduce themselves. Instead, they're doing you a favor. This takes practice. What if you're not included? I gave a presentation a couple of years ago in LA, and they had a reception afterwards for the presenters and for some sponsors. And I was talking with a gentleman who was an engineer, and I didn't know much about his area, but I was asking what, how, and tell me more. And after about 5 minutes, this fella comes over and says, Tom, how are you? And Tom says, Bob, great to see you. How you doing? And before you know it, I was completely left out of the conversation. And I did try to jump in. How do you guys know each other? When was the last time you worked together? It was as if I wasn't even there. This is what I did, and I'd like you to do it too. I said to them, you know what, you guys? I'll let you finish your conversation. Take care. And then I walked away with my dignity intact. I waited for a pause. I'll let you guys finish your conversation. Take care. As Ava DuVernay says about Oprah Winfrey, who she has directed in several films, Oprah does not need to tolerate what does not nurture her. And neither do you. You don't need to tolerate that. I'll let you finish your conversation. Take care. And now let's say hello to the goodbye formula. How many times have you been in a situation where someone's talking nonstop and you think, I got to move around the room. I need to see somebody else. Here is the 4-step process that will come in handy. Thank you. Acknowledge, offer a farewell phrase to show you're wrapping up, and a goodbye gesture. If you started off with a handshake, then when you put your hand out at the end with your farewell phrase, people know that the conversation is coming to a close. And it looks like this. Thanks for our conversation. I'll remember you. It was fascinating. Thank you for your interest in my project. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about our marketing plans. That was a great story. This is the acknowledging part. That was a great story. The best part was when you got in the boat right before the sharks started coming. Let them know you heard them. It's good to hear that your work or your family or your health is doing well or is improving, or I'm sorry to hear that you've had a tough year. I'll be thinking about you. And then here is the farewell phrase. I hope you'll excuse me. I need to talk with Nicole before I go. So if I don't see you before the end of the conference, take good care. Or, I love this one. This is new, hot off the press. One more question before we say goodbye. Isn't that cool? One more thought before we say goodbye. Now people know you're wrapping up. And of course, I don't want to monopolize your time. I know you'd like to get around and see some other people, so I'll let you go. Now, if somebody says, well, I don't know anybody else here, we can just keep talking. You could say to them, you know what? I really wanted to meet Jennifer Thompson, and I see her right over there. Let's go over and meet her together. And then you can move the conversation forward. Now let's talk about business cards. I love a good business card, and I will tell you, they're not out of style, although I know people use QR codes and so forth. That's fine. But I like to have a business card because at the end of a conversation, I could say, let's exchange business cards. If they don't have one, you can take a picture of their QR code. But number one, everybody, please make sure your business cards are in bold font and big enough font. My theory is the business cards are created by 20-year-olds who have perfect vision. Make it big so people can see what you're doing. Hand them the business card. And then the next day you can say, Thank you for giving me your business card. I'd love to continue our good conversation. Would you be open to a virtual coffee? I love that phrase, by the way. Would you be open to? And then this is another technique, a follow-up technique that I love, and it's called the give, ask approach. And that is when you give without asking for anything, people will remember you. Here's a give. Thought about you. This is the best subject line. I thought about you when I read this article, saw this TED Talk, listened to this podcast. Everyone opens an email that says thought about you. Another give. Congratulations. There are always ways that we can congratulate people. Another give, an introduction. Some of your best contacts, I'm sure, have come from introductions. And the three-way process, a la Confidence Project, how you know each person, what you respect or admire about them, and why you want them to meet each other. And another give, a handwritten note. I have a file with client notes, notes that I've gotten from people that I've been very appreciative of. Or find an article in the newspaper, put a sticky note on it, put it in an envelope, and pop it in the mail. That's another give. And then when you ask for advice, a favor, a recommendation, a referral, an introduction, an interview, or a job, people are more likely to say yes. One final thought. Good conversation is as stimulating as black coffee and just as hard to sleep after. From the author Anne Morrow Lindbergh. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. I know it was rapid fire. I hope you got some good information. And I will leave you with this. I do have a complimentary Confidence Project video that comes out the first Thursday of every month. So if you're interested, you can either take a picture of the QR code here, or you can go to our website. But I have 100 videos. They're 2 to 3 minutes, and they're all kinds of videos about how to have confident conversations as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Tracy, for sharing that with us. I did have Tracy on the podcast about a month ago, and we had a really great conversation about making introductions. And one of the things we talked about as well that I'll just add to is when someone introduces you, use how they introduce themselves to speak with them and address them. Don't shorten their name. Don't, if they introduce themselves as Tom, that's great, call them Tom. But if they introduce themselves as Thomas, don't call them Tom. They clearly, your name matters, and it really means something to you. So thank you so much, Tracy. She's going to hang on for a little bit and listen into our next conversation, which is continuing this conversation with several members of our village council. And they're going to help us kind of dig into the art of building real relationships, how to start them, how to deepen them, how to sustain them. Today's panel includes Jennifer Thompson with Capital Farm Credit, Jenny Kreischer with Horizon Farm Credit, and Rebecca Wood with Ag South Farm Credit. So thank you all, village council members, for being here and agreeing to be interviewed.
And we also have Jenny Mesereau
Excellent.
from Farm Credit Council.
Great. Well, relationships, they often start with some kind of a spark. And Tracy gave us some great things to think about in how we can spark the conversation that then can lead to the relationship. Jenny Kreischer, when you think about building relationships, what does a powerful connection mean to you personally?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Stephanie. I think for me, a powerful connection is when two people feel safe enough to show up as they are, not the polished LinkedIn version of themselves, but who they truly are as a human being. And I think it's in that moment when trust, curiosity, intention all line up and something bigger than either of us can become possible, right? I think powerful connections don't just feel good, but they create movement and momentum within ourselves. They unlock ideas, they unlock courage and collaboration that possibly wouldn't exist otherwise. And I think it's one of those things that really leaves you feeling supported, but also amplified at the same time. And that's the kind of spark that I tend to look for when it comes to relationships.
I love that. Let's kind of bring that to life with maybe a story, or Jenny Mesereau, if you can share a time when a simple introduction maybe turned into a real meaningful relationship.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for the question. And Tracy, I really enjoyed your comments and thoughts as a person who a lot of my job is walking into rooms that I don't know anybody in and making my way around the room to meet the right people. Again, I really appreciate all of Tracy's advice, and I'm definitely going to use some of those pointers at my next reception fundraiser meeting. But I think for me, I was always when early on in my career, a lot of folks offered to go to coffee with me and connect and just kind of dialogue about how they got to their point in their career. And I remember how many people helped me along the way. And now I make a really big point to reach out to folks who are just entering into, either my field or the farm credit field in general and say, hey, I'd love to get a cup of coffee. Please send me your resume and some information about yourself after the coffee and let me know where you're applying and who you're talking to because chances are I probably know somebody in that space. And I would love to then connect the dots between you and I and our conversation and what I've learned about you. So I had the how I got my job at Farm Credit was through a connection just like that. So I was applying for jobs, sent my resume out. Somebody that I had had coffee with many times who knew I was looking sent my resume over to some folks at the Farm Credit Council, and I've been with you all for 15 years through that one connection.
That is awesome. I once that door does open, you have to walk through it. And sometimes that can feel a little awkward. Jennifer, networking can be intimidating at times. So what helps you show up confidently in those moments?
I love this question so much. I'm pretty introverted. A lot of people don't know that. Whenever they meet me, they just assume like, oh, you're not introverted. They almost want to argue with me about it. And I really am. And networking is exhausting for me and incredibly intimidating. And I attend a lot of conferences and go to different functions with our board of directors. And I've really had to focus on that practice component. So I love Tracy talking about those labs, right? And there's so many opportunities for you to practice things. And I kind of thought it was silly at one point in time. Like, do I really need to practice networking? And I went to dinner one time with one of our top RMs at our association. And he's like, hey, I'm going to try out some stories on you guys over dinner. And I was like, what? Because he was going to meet with some of our potential customers the next week. And he wanted to try, and they're just anecdotes about his daughter getting in a car accident or something. It was just nonsense. But he wanted to try out his story and his delivery on us so we could give him pointers back. And it made me realize, like, if this guy is comfortable practicing and like this is what he's known for, then I should not be ashamed of my need to practice in this networking. And it's one of those components of you know some of the questions you're going to get asked when you go to events, right? Like how many times how are things at Capital Farm Credit, right? And how many times have I said the words busy but good, right? Like that's my standard go-to of answering that question. Well, I am not giving the other person anything to work with in that networking opportunity. And it's not really sharing anything or building a relationship or, giving any kind of content that perhaps they can leverage or use or spark that interest in conversation. So I really think just giving yourself a little bit of time to think about what you might say in those common type questions just to kind of help you get prepared for it. I also like to set myself some goals when I attend these conferences because it's really easy when you attend them to sit with people from your own association or your own board if you're with them. And so I try to challenge myself a couple of times a day. I'm going to sit at a table where I don't know anybody, which might mean that I'm sitting at a table full of directors from another association or having breakfast with them or whatever. But it's just a really good opportunity to make connections across the system, and you're going to learn something that you wouldn't otherwise know. So that's just a few things that I try to do to walk in there a little bit more confidently.
I love it.
And I like you talking about being really intentional. And if it is hard for anyone that's listening on this webinar to meet new people or whatever, the meal is the easiest time because people are doing something. They're not just staring at each other. You're enjoying a meal. It's a lot easier. It makes things a little more casual in your conversation. So always try to sit next to new people at lunch at the very least. If it's hard for you, just start there and try that. I recently listened to a Mel Robbins episode on how important small talk is. And in thinking about what is going to be your small talk so that you give the person that you're asking the question to, like Jennifer said, something to work with. You know, I mean, if your small talk is really about the weather, you've given them zilch. So just think about a couple of things that you could ask somebody, and Tracy gave us some good tips, but we kind of got to start with that is the small talk. Otherwise, things can get awkward very quickly if you jump right into the real deep, curious question. But Jennifer, I'm going to come back to you for a second to just build on this. What is one practice that you use to shift from the small talk to the more meaningful conversation?
Oh, I love that question. And Tracy really touched on this in some of her comments too. And that's that really wanting to be curious about what you're hearing, right? So assuming we're all doing our part and we're coming with some material that gives that other party something to work with in that conversation, then making sure that you are asking a meaningful question to figure out, well, tell me more about that, just like Tracy said, right? So if it was a couple months ago and somebody asked me, what's going on at Capital Farm Credit, how are things? I would have been like, oh my goodness, we're right in the middle of performance evaluation season. We are working on calibration. This is our third year in a row to do this, right? So I'm throwing at them all of these different things that they're like, what is calibration and how does that work? And then maybe you find out that they're way further ahead of you in this process or way far behind, which might present an opportunity that you can learn from each other, right? And as I was thinking about this question ahead of time, and I was thinking about Stephanie, you and I have known each other for a long time now, but like when we first met each other, it was just a simple introduction at a conference that we happened to both be at. And now I've seen Stephanie multiple times over many, many years, right? And so the last time I saw her, the conversation was about her cute new haircut, the vacation she just took, the vacation I was just about to take, and our children before we got into any conversation about the conference or work or anything like that, right? And that is over years of us connecting and seeing each other. So all that's just a point to make around. A lot of this takes time of getting to know each other. And I can confidently say a lot of the relationships that I've built within the farm credit system that were networking and are still networking are true friendships. And that helps to just take it to the whole next level to where I know if I've got a professional, I can call Stephanie and say, hey, we've got this problem here. Or I can give her feedback about, how we're feeling about different conferences or training that the Farm Credit Council Services is providing to us. And I know she's going to take it seriously and we can work well together through problems, right? So that's just really taking it to the next level of building that trust and that relationship, which again, it doesn't happen super fast, but it takes that time of transitioning and willing to put in the work and the time in those networking opportunities.
Stephanie, can I build a little bit on what Jennifer is saying?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I would just add a quick tip to Jenny Kreischer's point that being a little bit vulnerable is incredibly helpful so that you're connecting on a real level. And then to Jennifer's point of like getting to know somebody is really kind of the first step of building that deeper connection and that deeper network. So a tip that I use when I'm meeting people for the first time, when I get that question, how has work been or how has your day been? I try to find one thing, one very specific thing that's happened in my day that I know I'm going to talk about. And so, for example, this week, my thing was on Tuesday when folks asked me what my day was like at an event. I said, well, my morning started with my 9-year-old daughter telling me that asking me, why are you dressed like a witch, Mom? Because because it's winter and I had, all black on and I thought I looked super cute, but apparently I was giving witch vibes. So that's one of those stories. It's a little bit vulnerable. You don't want to lay all of that out there, but it helps people feel comfortable with you. You give them a little bit of a laugh, and now you've opened up all kinds of different avenues of conversation to talk about your kids, to talk about other times where you've had wardrobe malfunctions or haven't quite felt right about how you showed up in a room. So finding your little story, your 3-sentence story that you can share at an opening of a conversation really like gets the conversation going when you're trying to do small talk. The other tidbit I'd throw in there, Jennifer, is my husband, when he is going to events, will say, Jen, can we practice my talk track? So this is something men do all the time as well. And we should absolutely be stealing this skill from them.
Yeah. Yes. Love it.
I love that. Those are great tips. Jenny, I want to keep the question with you. The magic often happens after the event, and many people struggle with follow-up. We all get busy. We don't know what to say. We've gotten some good tips today about that. But What's one way that you followed up that has really helped to keep a connection alive?
So, dialogue is exchanging stories. And as you're having a conversation with somebody, you're picking up these little stories about their lives, about the things that they're interested in. So, what I try to do is if I see something, when I'm perusing the news or, I see something on social media or I think of something that reminds me of that person. As soon as that happens, to Tracy's point, where like you send the email thinking of you, I try to send that little email. Hey, saw this on your LinkedIn, wanted to say congratulations through an email personally, or grabbed this article on how not to dress like a witch, thought you might enjoy. So just little things like that really help continue the relationship and to Tracy's point, help you make that connection that people feel as though you care deeply and you paid attention to that conversation and they want to continue to engage with you because they've been seen. They feel like you've seen them and they're going to want you in their network.
Great.
Love it.
All right. So a question, I'm throwing this over to you, Rebecca. As we look long term, can you share an example of how consistent follow-up led you to an opportunity that deepened trust?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jean, and welcome everybody. So glad to have all of you here today. There's been a lot of opportunities throughout my career with Farm Credit and also prior to Farm Credit, where the relationship building and the networking has really led to some phenomenal friendships, some wonderful, deep conversations, just the ability to connect with others and maintain that connection. I've been hired for different roles due to that. I've hired people and referred other people to be hired to other, folks in the system because of those connections as well. So as I move from lending into more of the transformative space that we're in, one of the things that has to happen in that space is you have to be vulnerable. You have to realize that you don't have the answers that maybe you did when you were in more of a career path that was pretty much laid out and pretty standard as far as results and effort and things like that. So in this transformative space that we're in with projects and all of the new things that we're doing and evolving within this Farm Credit system, you have to have a lot of friends that you can be vulnerable with and can also let you be vulnerable with them. And so those conversations of, I don't know how to do this. How did this impact your organization? How did you handle this? What happened when it went wrong? What are the pitfalls I should look for? Those hairy conversations that are probably a little bit deeper than just your regular run of the mill. Hey, it's great to see you. I saw you were, out in California the other day. How did that go? And those are phenomenal contact opportunities, but to really take that and deepen the trust, it takes the network. And there's many people, I was scrolling through the attendees list a little bit ago, that have just really solved that for me and served that purpose. And hopefully I have done the same for them on this call and without. And without being too cliche, I'll say the best example, honestly, is the fact that the council, we're all sitting here today with 150 people on the call and hundreds of people inside of our network. And just the opportunities, that has been something that we have talked about as a council group and as many friends for probably the better part of a decade, or probably even more if I really go back and count the years there. And one of the most special things from a network that happened to me at the Village at the Village Summit this past summer is one of my prior, folks that really helped me grow in the system came up to me, and she had come to the summit and she had tears in her eyes and she said, "I can't believe that this happened." And I said, like, "You okay?" And she said, "No, I can't believe that this happened. You guys have brought this together. You've done this." And I don't mean that as a commercial, so to speak, for the Village, but just the meaningful thing, because my exact response to her was, "It's because we were able to stand on your shoulders to be able to do that." So it's just when you can have those conversations where you can really connect with each other and deep down that the major things that have mattered, you've been able to keep track of over the years and really deepen that bond. It's just a really special thing. So thanks to everyone on here that has helped me along the way, and always hopeful that I can help others along the way too. But just a great thing, and networks are simply the best.
That's great. I've loved just hearing from all of you. And one other piece of advice, and this kind of goes to that in building your network. A speaker that we've had frequently at our events, Ryan Avery, puts this into practice. And I think this would be a great thing to use too if you go to a conference and maybe only know one or two people, to ask them, who are three people here I should meet? And then they'll say it and they'll go, oh, well, she's over here. Let me introduce you. So that's kind of a good tip. Who are three people you know that I should know or can help me build out? So as we wrap up the council interviews, Jenny K, I'm going to close with you. So we've all been there when we missed the connection. We didn't follow up. We didn't maybe do the right thing. But what have you learned in this instance? And this is talk about vulnerability. So here we go.
Yeah, buckle up. Yeah, this one still haunts me, this misconnection. A piece of advice that I give people all the time is send the email, right? Like if there's someone that you admire or look up to, want to learn from, I always just send the email because you never know where it could lead, right? And you'll always regret not sending that email. So I followed my own advice one time. There's a financial blog that I listen to and read, and I emailed the chief marketing officer of a very high profile bank who I thought did some really cool marketing and advertising. And I was like, what the heck? I'm going to send the email, see what I can learn from them. And much to my surprise, her assistant actually responded and scheduled time for us to chat. And I was so thrilled that this woman who had absolutely no idea who I was willing to give a few minutes of her time to me to impart some wisdom on me. Well, the day came of that phone call, and lo and behold, a little bit of a crisis situation came up that I had to handle, and I actually had to cancel that meeting, and we never rescheduled it. And I think about this all the time, actually, and really regret never following up and rescheduling that call. And so I learned to always follow up, especially when you're requesting time from other people who make the time for you. Even if it's not to reschedule, a simple follow up with a thank you for being willing to share your time with me. Let's please stay in touch, I think is so, so meaningful. And so ever since then, I vowed to myself that I would never let that happen again, and that I never want to be that person for someone else. And so my ask of you all on the call is to hold me accountable to that, because I learned what type of leader I don't want to be in that situation. And it was a good learning lesson, and I hope you all learn from it as well. So.
Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing that and being vulnerable. And thank you to Jenny, to the Jenny, Jennifer, and Rebecca group that we interviewed today. Thank you for helping us really shape how we think about building and sustaining networks, and a lot of really great tips in there. Jean, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you're going to do a little bit of a learning spotlight for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. One of the many ways that we're reinforcing these ideas within FCCS is through our new relationship selling program. Just like we discussed today, sales excellence comes not from transactions, but from trust, from intentionality, and from relationships. And that's the foundation of long-term growth. And it's just a powerful parallel to what we've been exploring here today together. I'm also excited to announce a partnership between FCCS's Women of Distinction program at Gettysburg and the Farm Credit Council. We are working together to present a special Women of Distinction program in honor of the International Year of the Woman Farmer. The Farm Credit Council is launching the Advancing Women in Agriculture Through Resilience and Distinction, the award program. And this signature experience will take place August 31st through September 3rd, 2026 at the historic Gettysburg battlefield, bringing together women who embody leadership and courage and deep commitment to agriculture. And each farm credit institution is invited to nominate either one director, a customer, or an employee who exemplifies resilience and distinction and dedication to advancing the future of agriculture. So if you'd like more information about the Women of Distinction program or the relationship selling program, just take a photo of the QR code on the screen right now.
Thanks, Jean. I'm gonna wrap us up. Today, we heard about the power of confident conversations, the courage to follow up, and the intention that it really takes to move from those introductory conversations to real relationships and real connections. And I encourage you to just choose one practice, one thing that you learned from today, whether it's asking better questions or making a thoughtful follow-up, or simply just showing up with more confidence by practicing, doing those practice labs that Tracy talked about and that Jennifer Thompson also talked about. and try to put it in action this week. These small steps can lead to obviously powerful connections. I know as I looked around the webinar room here, I'm so thrilled that I have been able to connect with so many of you and look forward to connecting with even more of you. I hope that you stay connected with the Village. We do have a LinkedIn community that we'd love for you to join, where we're posting articles and thought leadership pieces and podcasts that we hear. And then we hope that you join us at the Village Summit in June. It will be prior to our Learning Exchange Conference. So thank you so much for joining us today. Stay tuned for more Village activities. And thank you for all the participation in chat and to our Village Council members for helping us plan this event.